Hello, welcome back to Let's Talk H.P. Lovecraft. Coming back with our first video since Christmas. It is the day after Christmas. I've already been to work for a day. I know many of you still had some time off, so I hope you enjoyed that time with your family. And if you're watching, I hope you're watching every day. We're doing a review just about every day now. And we hope you subscribe, because subscribers make things better. Alright guys, today's short story review, of course, H.P. Lovecraft, is Beyond the Wall of Sleep, published in October 1919 in Pinecones, an amateur publication. This story is about a man working in a mental hospital who encounters a interesting character named Joe Slater, who is essentially a redneck from the Catskills. He's dim-witted, uncouth, not a lot going on beneath the surface, or is there? Guy's known for his alcoholic benders and then his long periods of sleeping it off, at which time he often lashes out in these really weird ways that he cannot remember. I think everybody at first probably thinks he's just an alcoholic, maybe just crazy, but our narrator, who encounters him when he is committed to a mental hospital, thinks there might be something else going beneath the surface there. So eventually Joe Slater kills his neighbor, and that is what gets him locked away, where he meets our unknown narrator, who has this theory about human thought and what goes on when we sleep. He sees it as a thought as an electrical signal, which I guess in a sense it is. But he's created this sort of headset device, think of like Ghostbusters, that he thinks he can use to possibly tap into what is going on in Slater's head while he sleeps, and to find out what Slater can't sort of describe himself when he awakes, or can't remember because it was in a dream. So he does this a number of times, but gradually it becomes clear that Joe Slater is dying, and he has one last chance, basically on Slater's final day of life, or night of life, to put the headsets on and try and learn something. So during this final session, the narrator falls asleep as well, and he finds himself traveling to this strange ethereal plane among the stars in the heavens, filled with musical sounds and lights and all these sort of angelic things. And there he talks to a being who essentially tells him that in each of us there's sort of like a soul trapped in us. The two are forbidden to meet, but when we sleep, our souls sort of are set free, and they go, and they're immortal, and they're traveling through time and space and living a whole other, probably superior existence to our own here. This being tells our narrator that he plans to attack his nemesis, Algol, which is also the name of a star. And weeks after this encounter, our narrator finds out that in reality a bright star had suddenly appeared in the sky near Algol, where no star had been before, and then that star itself vanishes over time and then sort of disappears. So is the implication that this being did travel sort of as a star to wage its war, and did it lose? Is that why it disappeared? I don't know. Maybe it traveled on somewhere else. So that is the gist of it. The story itself seems to be like a sentimental or thematic brother to the short story Polaris, which I reviewed a few days ago. In that story, this character is looking up at the star Polaris blinking in the sky, and he has this vision of this far-off world. And then on the other side, another character, or the same character rather, is looking down up at Polaris as well, and imagines being the character who we met here on Earth. So it's a cool, interesting juxtaposition. One of the themes going on here is sort of this idea of having a superior being inside a sort of inferior body, and that kind of strikes me as being true to what I know about Lovecraft himself, who I hear, he was always pretty sickly, and that allowed him to not accomplish some of the things he wanted to in life. He couldn't fight in the World War, and he, of course, eventually, after years of sickness and depression and other bodily sicknesses, died young. Lovecraft is known to be very xenophobic. I think in this case, he's very much telling a theme where, although Slater, this character, is himself a pretty low-class human being, I think what he's really saying here is that we're all sort of inferior to whatever is inside us. We're sort of like the fleshy version of a better of the spirit and the ambition that we had beneath us, beneath the skin. So I think it's actually, despite his known prejudices, which themselves were a lot more common back then and even socially acceptable in most circles, I think here he's really making a commentary on humankind as a whole, which I kind of agree with. We are a pretty shitty bunch of people, aren't we? Story itself, I don't think it works quite as well as the author would have hoped. It's the conclusion feels like it's sort of tacked on to the end. This whole idea about looking up and seeing the star. It was sort of an attempt at a twist ending, but it just did not feel at all shocking or resolute in its delivery. That said, I think the prose style of the story itself is some of Lovecraft's best. He actually avoids his later trend of getting very, very decadent with his language and sort of making every sentence a little bit overstuffed. I think here it's a little bit more standard, but yet that is actually a plus here because it makes the story itself feel more professionally written. As to some of his rougher works feel a little bit too amateurish. I mean, they all have something good about them, which is why they've survived so long. But even so, I think I like him better when he is exercising restraint, and it gives the ideas a little bit more time to breathe, and that is certainly the case here. So, yeah, that is Beyond the Wall of Sleep. You'll recognize that title if you're a heavy metal fan. Several metal bands have done songs titled or based on Beyond the Wall of Sleep. Notably, the big one is, of course, Black Sabbath, and it's actually not one of their best songs, but it is cool to see that connection in the way that, if not the content of Lovecraft, but certainly the titles of Lovecraft have appeared in many, many musical groups' catalogs. So it's cool to see his influence, how it's branched into so many areas, including, of course, heavy metal, which is one of my favorite things in the world next to Lovecraft stories themselves. So, alright guys, that has been my review of Beyond the Wall of Sleep. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, you can vote by giving this video a thumbs up. Comments will be closed. I'm not really comfortable having comments open most of the time. And then, of course, just to remind you again, please subscribe to our channel. We recently crossed 500 subscribers. We've now pushed on to 508. Next goal that I have in mind is 750 subscribers, which I hope that we will be able to reach by the end of 2019. Yeah, gonna have to get used to saying that here in a few days because the new year is coming very, very quickly. So, once again, thanks, and I will see you again soon.